Hey guys, Coach Ben here, and you are listening to the BenchCast. How's everyone doing today? It is a cold morning, yet again over in HQ. I'm here with Small Arm Leg Strong, and we are filming the BenchCast. Today I wanted to talk to you about work ethic in your training and why you might not be working hard enough. Do you ever, run into a scenario where you just aren't progressing, and now you're starting to hop programs, you're starting to get frustrated as shit. You're not sure what's going on. You're trying to refine your technique when there's probably nothing even wrong. Did you ever just take a step back and wonder if you're just not working hard enough? How much time are you actually spending in training? Are you bullshitting yourself with 30 minutes of warming up, and then you're only getting 20 minutes of training in? Are you actually doing what you need to be doing in the gym? Are you bringing intensity to it?
Are you on Instagram more than you're lifting in the gym?
Yeah, that's a good one. I see lifters all the time on their phones in the gym. You could be doing something else with that time. I'm sure we could all ask ourselves that question and find areas in which we could get better. I hate the excuses of you don't have any time. I don't even entertain that, because it's not that you don't have time. It's that you don't put it on your priority list high enough. That's all it boils down to. It's not high enough on your priority list to get it done. So it doesn't matter if it's getting your mobility work in, you're getting your extra session in. The don't have time is a bullshit excuse. And oftentimes I got to catch myself, because that I do not tolerate.
9 times out of 10, it's not that you don't have time, it's that you're poorly organized.
Yes, poorly organized. And, even if you just tell me that you have other priorities and it's just not that important to you, I'd rather hear that kind of truth than listen to excuses about time. Everyone is pressed for time. That's the commodity. I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk episode the other day. I really like Gary V. I know some people do, some people don't. For anyone that doesn't know him for some reason, he's a really high profile entrepreneur from New York City. He's written 6 books now, something like that. Some real good stuff. Got a ton of content out there that he spreads, and he wants to buy the New York Jets. But I always enjoy listening to Gary Vee because he tells it to you straight. So yesterday, for some reason, I just felt like listening to him. It's been a little while. Threw him up on the podcast of driving into the gym, and I really enjoy listening to him because it usually fires me up. And he was talking about how, at this stage of the game, he's got all the money he needs. So he'd rather donate $50,000 to a charity than spend an hour, of his time. You know what I mean? Because his time is the commodity. He was saying how he's overseas right now. He's spending time with his mom a little bit more. And in this overseas trip that he was taking at the time, he didn't even get to spend any time with his parents at all. Just because he didn't have time. He had too much stuff scheduled. Because that guy, he seriously goes from one booking to the next. It's just all day. I think most of his podcasts are filmed right after a meeting, and then he gets a mic right on him, and he's right into it. But he was talking about how just time is the commodity, and he'd much rather give something other than his time. And that's the thing, guys. No one has time. We always fill our day with something. Sometimes you're just sitting at home watching Netflix instead of the gym, and you don't go to the gym just because it's just you start making excuses how you gotta drive there, you get back, you gotta make dinner, you gotta eat, and all this yada yada, instead of just doing it. You ever catch yourself doing that? You're sitting around, you start making all these excuses before you just end up doing it.
It's one of the reasons why I love training in the morning. Because as the day goes on, my list of excuses and bullshit just keeps on growing.
keeps compiling, doesn't it?
Keeps compounding.
Things that you wanted to do at 12, you don't end up doing at 12.
Or like something outside my own, control. Like let's say a family member needs something, my parents need something.
Yeah.
I do something for work. So if I make it a priority, do it first thing in the morning, it always gets done.
Yes. And that's why I love getting up early in the morning, because if I could do that, I know everyone else is likely sleeping, and no one can bother you with any distractions. You don't have any time commitments to be anywhere, and no one can get to you. Just turn off your phone, you could get a lot done. So that's a great point, trying to train in the morning. If you're stagnating in your progress, try to do something different with your scheduling. Maybe you train harder. I'm sure it's hard to get accustomed to, but I'm sure when you first started out, it wasn't easy training in the morning. You get used to it, you accommodate to it, and then you might train better in the morning.
There are definitely some things to help you train in the morning. One of them is just exposing yourself to light right away as soon as you get out of bed. Because, especially in the winter, that bed is warm. That bed is cozy. You don't want to get up. You don't want to go train. But exposing yourself to a bright light will wake you right up. You won't want to go back to bed. Having coffee or caffeine in the morning, and then just moving. As soon as you have the bed, just start.
Yeah, moving's big. I've been trying to take walks now. My little thing I threw in now is I'll walk before I train. So I'll usually come over here, I'll walk around the block, and then I'll get to my training, because I'm training here in HQ. So that's just kind of a way for me to get more walking in, something that's really, really good for you, get your body moving. And I feel a lot better going into the warm-ups and the training having done that. Even just in general in the past, giving myself time to just listen to music and kind of get my mind right. I remember when I was younger too, driving to the gym, sometimes I would opt for the longer drive, some of the side road drives, some of the 30-minute drives. And I actually like driving 45 minutes to the gym. It gives me a chance to listen to my music, kind of get my head right for the session, because it is hard, too, if you were to jump right out of bed. If I was to jump out of bed and come right in here and then think I'm going to train something real aggressive, probably not going to happen off the bat. There's a little period where you need to adjust yourself, you need to get your mind right and your body right, and that's not going to happen instantaneously. It's like what you're saying, getting that light, going for a walk, doing anything to get yourself ready for the training. We were talking to Kendall the other night at the gym, and we had her on for a podcast. And that was an early one, a softball player turned power lifter. She's really excelling now. And she would say when she was playing softball, the workouts were 5 in the morning. Really tough. I understand that college schedule for a college athlete. It's, you got to be in that strength conditioning gym at 5 in the morning. They're going through some really brutal conditioning and stuff. And she would say there's no way she was just going to be able to hop out of bed and get right there and actually do anything worthwhile, training-wise. She'd probably throw up. You know what I mean? It's just too early. You haven't done anything. You haven't ate anything. So she would make a point to get up at 4 in the morning, if not earlier, get into the cafeteria, eat a little something. Don't down a bunch of food, but probably some fruits and some stuff to get some sugars in you, and then go to training. How much better that session is. So, just the things that you have to do. I remember I had to, my schedule really wasn't allowing me to get a lot of time in for training. So I was like, well, F it. I want more time to train. I'm going to get up at 4 in the morning and get my ass over to the gym. It's actually earlier. I started training at 4 in the morning. It's probably the earliest I actually ever started training, because at that point I'd probably just stay up all night. I have done the 24-hour gym things where you train at midnight, 1 a.m.
It's a fun time.
It is really. It was kind of. I did that once a week, and that was kind of my fun night. I would drive down there at 11:30.
I used to do the same thing at 2 in the morning. I used to work at bars and stuff. So after that, go to the gym 1, 2 in the morning. It'd be fun. No one would be there.
Yeah, no one's there. It's quiet. You think to yourself. I always enjoyed that. 4 a.m. I can't say I enjoyed that too much, but I did get sense of satisfaction out of that, because I got my training in for the day. I didn't really have to worry about it any other point, because there was just no time to allow myself to really get something in. It'd be too staggered, and I didn't want that. So I just changed my schedule to make it work. And most of you can do the same thing. You got to ask yourself the question today, am I doing enough? Can I make some changes? Don't bullshit yourself.
If you ask yourself what you're doing wrong, what you're doing to yourself to like hamstring your gains, it's going to come yelling at you. You're going to know right away.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things Gary Vee was talking about the other day is say you're 8 hours at work, say 9 to 5, whatever the case may be. Give you 8 hours of sleep. That's very generous. You have 8 other hours in your day, or whether it's broken up a little bit in there, or it's you have straight 8 hours to do something. He's always like what he wants to take a look at is what the hell you're doing in those 8 hours. So if you feel like you're handcuffed, you feel like you're just part of the system and you're never going to get out of it, your job is what it is, there's no other job to do, you feel you're just handcuffed in what you're doing, it's an everyday routine and you're really sick of the bullshit, what are you doing in those other 8 hours to do anything about it? Are you what do you truly want to do, and then are you taking any steps to get there?
There was a really good video I watched recently by Casey Neistat. He had Jocko on and everything. It was really cool. He took dominoes and he broke up his whole day, and each part of the domino represented an hour. And so he just wrote everything down and he broke down his day. Okay. And that's really awesome. You can do the same thing yourself. You write it all down, you draw it out, and you break down what you're doing every day. So like work, it's 8 hours. You have to be there. Sleep, 8 hours. You have to do that. And then you break up the free time in between. Mm-hmm. And the dominoes is really cool because he can move it around. So like, let's say he'd move sleep from the end of the day to the beginning of the day, move workouts around. It's a really good visual. Yeah,
that's a good point, is giving yourself one of those little visual tricks.
There's also a cool app on iOS for iPhones and everything. It's called Dayflow. Mm-hmm. Let me make sure that's right before I just say that. Yeah, it's called Dayflow.
That would be good to download. Let's
I'll put it up on the screen, but it breaks up your day, and you just have...
So what are you doing with this thing?
So it's time left in the day, right? So that's 14 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then these are the tasks that I do and time that I allotted for each one of them. And so I'll start one, and then it'll start down the timer.
So you're putting in daily tasks, things you want to get done
like
there.
Estimated times of how long it'll take.
Yeah.
Like let's say I need to edit videos.
And then it's telling you how much time is left in the day after your daily tasks?
Exactly. And I can set the custom end time. So let's say I want to be done with everything by 8 o'clock tonight. Uh-huh. So I put in edit videos, it's 3 hours. I put in workout, it's an hour and a half. I put in yoga, it's also another hour. So it'll count down. If I go over, if I go under, it'll show. And
I see.
So one of the big issues that people do is that they make a schedule, but they make it airtight. They make it so that if one thing comes in, they can't do anything because it just knocks their whole schedule off. One of those things is to allow time in between tasks. If you know you have to drive somewhere, you might as well throw an extra 20 minutes in your schedule for traffic. Mm-hmm. That way, at the end of the day, you might have a little extra time.
Yeah, absolutely. Driving's big. If you think about the time you travel to work and back.
Huge.
And he was saying, too, the other day, say you're taking the train to work or something. I guess even if you're driving, you can listen to things.
There's audiobooks now.
So, you can't make that excuse that, I travel 3 hours to work. There's still a way to learn what you want to learn and get done what you need to get done.
We just had one of your distance clients, Zach, come over, and he travels for medical sales all the time. And he still gets his trading in.
Yeah, that was a great podcast that we did with him. And he's always on the move, going city to city, doing all that. And, he's never had a problem getting his training in. But that's because he's very dedicated to what he does. Powerlifting is a really big part of his life. And you can tell just the people he hangs out with and how he carries himself and how he's really, the questions he asks. He's just really into it. He's a good student of the game. And, he has no problem because he knows that's one of the first things on his mind, he said. He's thinking about where the gyms are.
Top of his priority list.
Yeah, so, and that's kind of cool, too. You get to experience some different gyms and stuff. I know I would like that, getting out there, seeing some different gyms, maybe training with some different people. But, he had no problem getting his training in, and he's on the go all the time. So, even if you're traveling one way to the next, there's always time to get it in. And just if you 8 extra hours, what are you doing with that time? And oftentimes you're probably filling it with a little bit of bullshit. You know what I mean? That's what Elvis just said is really good, like the domino thing, writing it down, because then you realize you're filling it with bullshit. Because otherwise, you're just going to easily convince your mind that you're doing something productive when you're actually not at all. Or you could switch it up and do something actually productive.
There are like two of my favorite, like Jordan Peterson things he said. One is when he asked his class of college students, how much time do you waste in a day or in a week? And then he just like, by their own definition, how much time you're wasting. And you could ask that to yourself. How much time, by my own definition, am I actually wasting a week? And then you could set like a monetary value to that hour. Like let's say you value your time at like $40 an hour, because that counts as what you can make now and what you can learn to make in the future. So then you just go, and then you can calculate that out for a week, for a year. And then you see how much money you're wasting a year. So instead of time, which may not necessarily mean as much to you, it'll go to dollars. And that might mean a whole lot much to you. Yeah. Because you find out you're wasting $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. Yeah. You're going to kick yourself.
Whenever you can place a monetary value on it, that really hits home. Yeah. I absolutely hate doing that shit because I'll buy so much coffee. And I did the math one time on, because I would go to Dunkin's all the time. I'm sure many of you are the same. Right now for me it's Starbucks. I haven't had Dunkin's since January after that coffee. But I calculated if I had a cup of coffee in the morning, I usually would get one on my way into the gym in the afternoon. So I would put that into perspective. What's that, $4 a day? We'll say it's $2 a coffee. A little more, I think. But $4 a day. Say I did that 5 days a week. In a weekend, it's not necessarily that much. So, what's that? 5 times 4 is
$20.
20. All right, so let's multiply that again by 4. Just give you a month value. It's found with $80 a month on coffee. All right, let's turn that into a year. Can we do that, man?
It's $960.
$960. And I think I had it racked up into the thousands once for some reason for something. But when you start thinking of it like that, I mean, how many people would love a $960 check at the end of the year?
Listen.
Granted, you're not going to give up your coffee.
Of course not. But my friend's a nurse, and he did the math too. Except instead of, $4 a day, he racks up into the $15 a day, 6 days a week.
Oh.
That's some rough math.
Yeah. That just kind of ruins coffee for you. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't indulge in it. There's times where I want to grab a meal. I just trained. I'm not going to just not eat. So I grab something quick at Chipotle. It's expensive as shit over there. But, I think it's worth it because it's post-workout. Not something I do all the time. So I'm not saying don't indulge because you start doing the math in your head. Because I've gotten to that point. I don't know if you have. Where I'm just like, shit, this is my 960 at the end of the year after coffee today. And
this goes all the way back to, the self-discipline and training, self-discipline and making proper planning. Because, let's say, you have a bad day, right? You didn't prep all your meals the week before or the day before. And so you're like, all right, so I'll have Chipotle for lunch. And then I'll have coffee afterwards, get a little tired because it's way too many, too much food for me. And then, for dinner I have to go to work, but I might as well pick something up on the way there. And then you just didn't get, your night train session. You didn't do your accessories for the day. And you're like, I just chalk up to whatever.
Yeah.
Versus, actually planning it out. Because I don't know about you, but when I plan my things out, when I have meals already made in, the fridge, or, just have the food to make, I feel bad about going out to eat. Because it's like, I'm going to waste this food that I already spent money on, that I already have prepared. It, keeps me on track better.
No, you're right. You're right. And things can snowball real quick when you miss your routine or whatever the case may be. I know in terms of meal prepping for me, I miss one day, it seems to derail the whole thing I had going. And in terms of coffee too, it's like, do you really need that cup of coffee in the afternoon? Because now it's a routine. Once something becomes a routine, it's hard to break. But there's plenty of days if I ask myself, do I really need this coffee right now? I could probably do without. I don't necessarily need it. Maybe I'm a little, if I know it's going to be a hectic day, I really don't want to be lagging ass, maybe I'll get it. But, oftentimes if it's a slow day, do I really need to get that cup of coffee? Could I just wait on it? I mean, I get some Keurig stuff here, so sometimes you just got to ask yourself too in the moment, because things easily become a routine as well. So, not to get too far off the end here.
Sometimes you just need the combo breaker. You need a day or two, which completely throws off your whole regular schedule, to really look at and it'll help you see how much time you're wasting. Like, let's say you have like a work project, you get all intense, you get all like hammered, you get zoned in, you're so focused, you get so much work done, and you get more work done in the 2 days than you did all month.
Yeah.
And then like you're much more capable than what you think you're capable of.
Yes.
And I think that freaks a lot of people out, because then they can go back and see, I wasted all this time so far.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, there's a lot you can get done that you probably aren't taking advantage of. For me, writing and whatnot, I know I could probably get a lot more writing in than usual. You're getting articles done for certain sites, or I'm starting to work on this book too that I'm still planning to get at the beginning of the year. But there's a lot of instances where I'm like, well, I really could have sat down and got some writing done. You know what I mean? So it's you gotta just be real with yourself and what you're using your time for. What I don't like though is, so the Jocko guy.
Of course, I love Jocko.
So I see his Instagram. It's all like 3:30 a.m., 4:30 a.m., whatever it is. Just posts pictures of time that he's getting up so damn early. And The Rock was even doing that stuff too. He would post. He had the Rock clock. He gets up like 6 a.m. every day. It's actually earlier.
He had an app.
He had the app. The
and
Rock
you could
clock.
set it until when he wakes up.
Yeah, but it was like 6 a.m. It wasn't nothing crazy. But
No,
he
it was like 4.
Up.
It was.
He wakes up early.
Yeah.
It was standard for 6 every time. I think the app broke. But, so he would do that too, and if you're doing that, so either two scenarios. Those guys are going all day long, and they're getting like 2-3 hours of sleep. For a person, that's not sustainable. I don't know how people would do that.
So there's like a gene variant where people can like actually be healthy and on like less than 8 hours of sleep. And, like, they can go like 4 hours of sleep a night and they'll be fine. They'll be like cognitively fine.
Really?
They'll be like, yeah. But it's like a 1% gene variant in the population. And then as soon as anybody says anything, everyone's like, oh, that's me. It's probably not you. Well, let's put that out there.
Okay.
It could be The Rock. It could be Jocko. It could be Casey Neistat.
So
these people
this is
just
my
seem
problem.
to not or not sleep. It could be Arnold Schwarzenegger, because one of his famous speeches, he's like, so what you need to do to work on yourself, you need 6 hours of sleep a night. And then some people come up to him and say, Arnold, I need 8. He's like, well, just sleep a little faster then.
Yeah, you know what? Then that I got the shit end of stick there.
Some people need more. Like 8 hours is like the average recommendation.
Yeah.
Less or more. I personally seem to do my best on 7.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if I sleep any more, I get a headache. If I sleep any less, I feel like shit.
Yeah, I'm definitely at the 8-hour mark. No, for a fact. But I force myself up early sometimes.
A lot of that is also avoiding distraction at night.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. Because I find that my self-control wanes as the day goes on.
Uh-huh.
Because obviously after midnight, you look in the cupboard and like, oh, you see all these snacks and shit. You might as well, right? But if I go to bed earlier, or if I like turn off the TV an hour before bed, start reading, because I feel like I can just get sucked into a show, and especially at night, I'll just watch it till like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
It gets real bad.
Yeah. With these guys though, I hate it because if you look on the other side of it too, you can spend that same time at night, late at night, when they're potentially sleeping. It's just the reverse. So that always bothered me, because they're talking all this stuff about getting up super early, which is good. There's a lot less distractions, but then you can do the same thing at night.
It's all about finding your time to carve out in the day and just be able to get work done.
Uh-huh.
And I think for most people, either super early or super late works really well. Because after like 11 o'clock, like no one's really going to bother you.
No. And you got to realize, if you're staying up that late, you ain't getting up that early.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of those 2-hour weirdos that thinks they can get full sleep 2-3 hours. That's not going to happen. Joe DeFranco always talks about that. And, Grant, I don't know if he's one of those 1% dudes, but the guy has to be burnt out. He's got to be, because I don't know how anyone could do that.
One of my favorite sleep schedules that I've ever had in my entire life, until a couple of my friends who are assholes broke it. I used to sleep from 12 to 4, morning and night. So in the day, I'd sleep from 12 to 4. At night, I'd sleep from 12 to 4. And it was awesome. It was fantastic. I was in college, so I had a nice schedule. I'd go to class in the morning, I'd go sleep, and then I'd have night classes, and then I'd go sleep. Just work, sleep, work, sleep. And it was amazing. But I found that if I missed one of the sessions for any reason, I'd be tired immediately. Like as soon as 4:30 rolls around, I would like want to like hit the floor.
Yeah, so you were banking on being able to hit that time all the time.
And I was just breaking it up. I'm like, I need 8 hours. I don't think I need 8 hours in a row, but I think I just need 8 hours in total.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, and I've seen people break up their sleeping like that before. I never tried anything like that, but I do enjoy the nap, the occasional nap.
Oh, naps are huge. Just for cognitive function, same thing. You want to break up the routine. Like
Yeah.
if you're working on something, you get tired. If you have the luxury of working from home or your luxury of being able to take a nap, doing that and then getting back to work can like refreshen your mind, make you so much more sharper.
I've never felt like I gotten a boost out of it when I more or less kind of forced it. If I'm really like feel like I'm dazing off, and it's not because I just ate a huge ass meal, then I do feel a little more recovered from it. Like if you're just forcing yourself up a couple days in a row and you're just tanked, and you're just not thinking clearly, that's when I found naps to be super valuable. Whatever time you can get in on them. But yeah, guys, it might just be a case that you gotta analyze your time, and then with the time you are spending in the gym too, not to get too heavy into the excuse of not having time, but when you're in the gym too, like how are you maximizing your time? How are you maximizing your training? If you only have 1 hour to train, not everyone has the luxury of having many hours to train, but even if you're just there for 1 hour, how are you making best use of that? So if you only have 1 hour to train, you can't do an extensive warm-up. You can't, if you try to do an extensive warm-up, all of a sudden now you got 40 minutes and now you're rushing accessories and stuff.
And so in helping on that out, you could focus more on warm-up and mobility work on days you don't train or days you have that time. Because I feel like when people need that extensive warm-up, it's because their lifestyle doesn't bode well with training. Like they have to spend 20 minutes opening up their hips, to squat or opening up their ankles or just something with their back. So it's like stretching and taking that mobility routine out of, pre-workout is huge.
Yeah, and you get free up all your time if you only have an hour. And then, just in terms of training, what are you doing in between sets? What is your goal of the day? So if you're doing like a speed work type of training, are you setting the time? Are you getting it done? Some of the best speed work days that I've done, I've set a timer for 20-something seconds, and I've just banged it out. And it was tough, but it lasted like 7 minutes, so you suck it up a little bit. If you're doing heavy lifting, you're going to need a little more recovery time. So you can't be going too crazy in between sets, but what are you doing to like mentally prepare for the set and all that stuff. So you do get yourself a little more rest, but you got to accommodate for that and maximize your time in the gym. You know that you're probably going to have to pick up the pace on your accessory work if that is the case. But, sometimes it's not just your program. It's not just, other outside factors. It's just how hard you're working in the gym, how you're maximizing your time, how you're getting after it. And we were talking before about how intensity is such a huge thing. The intensity you bring to your training session will pretty much trump everything. Anyone could get like a program anywhere, and the difference between really finding success and not is the intensity that you bring to the session for the most part. It's when people start getting, the big thing too, big variable, you gotta make sure people aren't getting like bored with their typical routine, because then you're not bringing any intensity to the session. You got to constantly find that intrinsic motivation. For myself right now, thinking about this Arnie is all I really need to fire myself up. So before, maybe I'll listen to music and stuff, but then I'm thinking about all these dudes training hard right now at the Arnie. I'm thinking about putting myself in that scenario. I don't want to do bad because I got 5 months to get ready for this shit, and it's all on me if I don't do well. That alone, just that fact, and wanting to win that is enough to get that motivation to bring it in the session and like truly bring it, not sandbagging, going through the motions, but you're there to get something done. So you just got to find what you need to do to get yourself in that zone. How you're managing your time. So if you need extra mobility work, there's a half an hour in there somewhere on some day to get some of that work in. All right, you can't tell me there's not. You can definitely sneak it in at some point.
And just like one of Kelly Starrett's big things is that it only takes 10 minutes a day. At the very minimum, do 10 minutes of mobility work every single day.
10 minutes a day.
That's nothing.
That's it. I'm just like I was telling you, trying to work in walking. I'm probably not going to right now, at this stage at least, try to put in walking a bunch of other areas. Right before my session, I know, all right, shit, time to go for my walk. So it works perfectly. It's how I'm fitting it in. If I had to train and then try to go for a walk later, maybe when I'm more tired, it might not happen. So by putting it right at the forefront, it's getting me ready for my training, and I'm getting it in. So however you need to plan it out and do it, just get it done. I'll go back and I'll tell the story too, about how I was getting this all started. So with that 8 hours a day concept, keep in mind too, you don't have to be stuck doing what you're doing either. So if you want to make a change, so for me, I wanted to be able to control my day, and I wanted to revolve around training. All right. I was sick of, just kind of being lower on the totem pole, doing work that I didn't want to do during the day. And I knew I wanted to get out of that eventually. It would just take a shit ton of time. So you got to know, I understand that, I was at Barnes & Noble, and I was cleaning bathrooms pretty much for the most part of my day. And I knew that was something that I didn't want to do. So I knew eventually it would take some time to get myself in any sort of training scenario and learn everything that I needed to learn. But eventually I'd be able to get to that point. So what I did was started interning, started learning all that stuff, right? Was already super passionate about it myself, trying to get to that point. But, you can make the excuse, I didn't have time or this or that. But I would get up at like 5-something in the morning, go out to this gym, intern for a few hours. I told him I didn't have much time in the schedule, when he has sessions open. But I would get there like 5 a.m. and that would be that. I'd have to wake my ass up really early. It was never late. You gotta make a point, always be on time, especially when you're not in the position you want to be in yet. You gotta showcase that you can be there and be reliable. So you just gotta put in that type of work. I could have made the excuse, I ain't getting up at 5 a.m. I got a class and yada yada. I gotta get up, study, whatever. But just put in that work, did it. When I came out here, I had like 3 jobs going on. I was working at the golf course. I was delivering chicken. And I was also, I think, volunteering more so at the gym, and then I had something else going on too. But it was really crazy. I was trying to get like training in at 4 in the morning. I would try writing articles, making posts. I only really made like 1 post a day on Instagram. You go back at the Big Benchas Instagram, it's like 1 post early on, and write articles, do all that. Just try to share good information when I can. A lot of times it would have to be during the chicken shop, and it would drive me nuts because then I get called out for a delivery when I'm in the middle of doing something. I still have to try to get the training in. A lot going on, guys, but the moral of it is, eventually I was able to have an opportunity to just go into the gym training and make that like my full-time thing for the time being. I did have to put a lot on credit and stuff like that to keep forwarding the bills, but I knew in time I just needed time to catch things up and have more opportunity. And now, eventually to the point where I wanted to be, where most of my days just all revolving around training in some aspect. Online coaching was always something that I wanted to do with everyone. And now we're making that happen now, but it's taken a long time of just doing shit that you didn't really want to do, and just pushing through that and making use of your time. That's the concept I want to get away, is making use of the time you have. Very easy in your daily schedules, right, to make that excuse as we talked about, but do some of the apps that Elvis said. What's that app again?
Dayflow.
Dayflow, that domino stuff.
Anything you could do, especially because one of the favorite things from Jordan Peterson was that when you make a schedule so that you have the best possible day that you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really think about it, you want to set up that day so that you're ahead of yourself than you are today. So you want to get all the things that you need to get done. At least, let's say half of it has to be things you need to get done, depending on how long you've let it slack, how responsible you are, how ahead you want to get. And then follow that schedule. And if you fail at that schedule, that's fine, because I bet if you fail at that schedule, it's a lot more than you got done today.
Yeah, it'll be a lot more.
Like, let's say you only get 20% of it done. The next day, try for 21%, try for 25%, try for small improvements every time, because all these things compound.
Yeah, my biggest progress days is just when I've planned things ahead and wrote things down and kind of made a little schedule beforehand. If you wing a day, it never really goes how you want. So developing a little routine, planning things ahead of time, very, very important. And then, for example, when I was sitting at that chicken shop, I was there all day doing deliveries, but the time I would drive to a place, podcast time, time to learn something. If I was in the chicken shop, most of the time I'm just sitting there, right? Yeah, I want to be social. I don't want to close myself off to everyone, but then again, I got goals and certain things I want to do. So I brought my laptop in and I would get shit done. So whereas maybe you would say, oh, yeah, that's just time spent at work. I don't have time to do that stuff. Just make that time in between. If you know, like, for example, I was sitting there waiting for deliveries, bring the laptop, get something done. All right. And, that's, if I get 3 things done in that time, in that day, that's 3 things that I wouldn't have had done beforehand. I didn't have time really to do it after because I would want to go to bed. I'd be tired and want to go to bed. I could have stayed up later, but then now you're starting to burn yourself out because you're getting up like 4 a.m. So
one of the things is that what Jocko usually says is that discipline equals freedom. The discipline that you put in to get these things done is the freedom you're going to have later. Like, if you want to be able to spend money how you want it, you need to have financial discipline in order to save that money and not spend it as soon as you get it. Or with fitness, you need to have discipline to go and follow a schedule if you want to do well at a meet.
Yeah.
So it's like with you, if you didn't have the discipline to put in that work to get stuff done at every possible moment, you could still be slinging chickens.
Yeah, could still be on that chicken slinging game. But, yeah, right on. Guys, just that's the moral of this podcast is, first, are you stagnating a little bit? Take a look at that, before you jump into the programs or, yada yada, whatever the case may be, your technique is off. Just analyze, am I bringing it every session? Am I actually working hard at the gym with the time I have? Am I making excuses to why I can't do that extra mobility work the next day? Playing the I don't have time card, upset that I have, a job that I don't want to do, so I can't fit in the training that I want to fit in. I can't end up doing the things I want to do during my day. These are all changeable aspects, guys. And I hope this podcast gives you a start on how you can analyze what you're doing with your day.
And then just understand that any excuse you make, no matter how valid it is, doesn't move you forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Any excuses will not push you ahead. Discipline will, and getting shit done on a daily basis towards your goals. Planning things out ahead of time. Make sure you're doing all those things, because as much as it seems like you're stuck in the hamster wheel, you can always leap out of that at any time. All right, just take some time. All right, I guess that's what we got.
Just remember that everything you do is a choice. No one's forcing you to go to that job. No one's forcing you to watch Netflix. Especially no one's forcing you to watch Netflix.
That would be weird. Time for Netflix. But yeah, that everything, you can choose how you react to situations. Everything is a choice. You go to that job because you chose to do it. You're doing this training because you chose to do it because you enjoy the payoff. So that's it, guys. Appreciate you listening today. If this kind of hit home with you, feel free to share it. Leave a nice review. 5-star review always helps us out tremendously. Really appreciate that. You can follow us at Instagram on Instagram at bigbenchas, of course. My personal is at bench and Benny. You got at small arm, legs strong. He's got small arms and his legs are strong. You get it? And then you can subscribe to us on the YouTube. You see all the content that we have on bench pressing. All right, guys.
Go break out of a rut.
That's right. Time to go make some changes. You have been listening to the BenchCast.